Okay, welcome back. During my studies, I was wondering if Jesus and Set were the same entity. It arose from like a question that I had asked Set. I asked him if he was a deity that was known to be gentle and kind, what had happened. And during that invocation, instead of answering directly, I was given a vision of Jesus on trial, mocked and dismissed as a madman before Pontius Pilate. This moment of revelation sent me on a path of research that unearthed startling parallels between the two seemingly opposite figures. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through those shared traits, the lineage, and what this connection means for our understanding of transformation, destruction, and enlightenment. One of the most striking parallels between Set and Jesus lies in their divine origins. Set is the son of Geb, the earth god, and Nut, the sky goddess. His existence represents the union of earthly and the celestial, the struggle between matter and spirit. Jesus, in a similar vein, is referred to as the son of Adam, that's at Luke 3:38, which translates to man of the earth. He is also called the Son of Man in Matthew 8:20, a term that establishes his connection to humanity. But then there is his most famous title, Son of God. That is at Luke 1:35. Traditional Christianity interprets this as a reference to the male deity of the monotheistic framework. But what if, in the pre-Christian or alternative esoteric perspective, this title could be connected to a feminine sky deity? Just as Set was born of Nut, could Jesus, like Set, embody the meeting of earth and sky, matter and divinity? This perspective shifts our understanding of both figures. Neither fully belongs to one realm or the other. They are both bridge makers, beings of dual nature who walk between worlds. According to Egyptian Magic by Gerald and Betty Schuler, Set was not always a god of chaos and destruction. He was once revered as a protector, a warrior who defended the sun god Ra against the forces of darkness. Only later was he cast as a villain, demonized in the Osirian mythos. Now let's consider Jesus. The figure of Christ is often associated with peace, healing, and compassion, especially towards outcasts of society, women, children, and the sick. But as his story unfolds, his role transforms. The loving teacher becomes the figure of divine judgment, the bringer of a sword. In Revelations 19:11-16, Jesus is described as a warrior king riding a white horse, leading an army and striking down nations. In Luke 12:49-52, he says, 49-52, I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. This is not the gentle shepherd of Sunday school stories. This is a figure of destruction, a god of reckoning. Is it possible that Jesus, like Set, underwent a transformation, not in essence, but in perception? Was he, like Set, pushed from a place of reverence to one of fear as the world failed to embrace his teachings? Both were outsiders in Egypt. Set, despite his status as an Egyptian god, was always depicted as an outsider, foreign, disruptive, never quite belonging. Jesus too was an outsider in Egypt. As an infant, he was taken there to escape Herod's massacre. It's at Matthew 2:13. He grew up in Judea, but his presence in Egypt lingers in the mythology of his life. He existed between cultures, between traditions. It's fascinating to consider that both figures, though vastly different in their cultural depictions, shared this liminal status. They were in Egypt, but not of Egypt, moving between worlds, embodying the role of the exile, the wanderer, the force that does not fully belong. Set is known as the Lord of Storms, controlling tempest and violent weather. His domain is chaos, the unpredictable forces of nature that can bring destruction, but also renewal. Jesus, too, demonstrated dominion over the storm. In Luke chapter 8, verses 22 through 25, he calms the raging sea with a single command: peace, be still. The disciples, witnessing this, ask, who is this that even the winds and the sea obey him? Both Set and Jesus hold power over the raw, untamed forces of nature, but their storms are not merely physical. They symbolize the inner storms, the chaos within the soul, the turmoil of the spiritual awakening. Both figures experience profound betrayal. Set was cast as the villain, the god who killed Osiris, and was condemned for his actions. Yet earlier myths paint a different picture, one where Set was not an adversary, but a necessary force of change. Jesus, likewise, was betrayed by Judas, by his disciples, by the very people he sought to enlighten. He was abandoned, crucified, left to die in agony, and yet, in Christian theology, this was not the end. His suffering transformed him, leading to resurrection and ascension. Set's demonization and Jesus' crucifixion both speak to a rejection of transformative forces. Humanity resists change. We crucify what we do not understand. We cast into darkness what we once revered. To bring us to the final, most provocative question: what if Set is not merely an ancient god of chaos, but a shadow aspect of the Christ force? What if the same divinity essence that once sought to bring peace and enlightenment, when rejected, mocked, and cast aside, became the storm, the fire, the reckoning? Jesus himself said in Matthew 10:34, "Do not suppose that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword." If divinity is ignored, it does not vanish, it transforms. When wisdom is rejected, it does not fade, it returns as fire. Set is not the adversary. He is the storm that follows when enlightenment is cast away. He is the force that breaks illusions, that demands reckoning. He is the wrath of divinity when patience runs out. Perhaps in rejecting Jesus, the world called for Set. And perhaps, just as Set was once a protector, he may yet guide those who dare to face the storm. Whether you see Jesus and Set as two faces of the same force or as archetypes reflecting the cycle of transformation, one thing is clear: divinity is not static. It shifts, evolves, and reacts. The loving teacher can become the warrior. The protector can become the storm. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe, share your thoughts, and explore the mysteries for yourself. I always say, don't accept one source as truth. Find your own truth. And remember, enlightenment and chaos are not enemies. They are two sides of the same coin. Until then, stay curious, stay questioning, and may your path be illuminated by both the light and the storm.